Hey, what's up? GW coming to you live. A couple things. One, I was going to drop a YouTube video yesterday. Yesterday turned into house cleaning day, and anybody that's married, you guys know that when your wife says house cleaning, you drop everything, you clean the house, and buddy, we cleaned everything. We cleaned the bathroom, we vacuumed, we did everything except for mow the lawn because it was too wet. But anyway, this weekend wasn't a total loss in the movie front because I did check out a few good movies. And I heard about someone who was big in Hollywood who my buddy Matt Campbell turned me on to. His name was Roger Corman. If you guys don't know him, he passed away. He was 98. So before I get into the movies that I checked out, let me tell you a little bit about Roger Corman because some of you guys may or may not know him. Roger Corman was called the King of Cult back in the early 70s and 80s. He had released tons of B movies, too many to name. I believe he did the 1970s classic Piranha, and Piranha was an interesting movie because it was one of the biggest Jaws ripoffs that actually was very successful. Roger Corman also founded New World Pictures, which I can remember, renting titles, and I can't even tell you what they are, but you'd put in the thing and it would have this big half red thing and it would say New World Pictures. And you go, okay, cool. He was an actor too, guys. He was actually on some of the movies. If he starred with, if he had a movie, or if he had a movie star in his movie, if that movie star later went on to make a movie, he would try to get in that movie. Roger Corman was a good guy, and like I said, king of the B movies, Like I said, I do believe he did Piranha. He'd done a couple of aqua monster themed films. There was one about a sea monster, and I can't remember what it was for the life of me. It wasn't Deep Rising, it wasn't Terrorizing. I can't remember, but Roger Corman, he had done so many movies, and that's why it makes it hard to keep track of everything. Pretty good talent, and he will be missed. Let's see, what else? A couple of the movies that I did check out, guys. One was called Late Night with the Devil. It's a very interesting little horror film, and I think it's streaming exclusively on Shudder. I watched this, and it's about an hour and a half. And it's a very creative little, like I would say, low budget sort of horror film. Basically, what it's about, guys, is it tells the story of a late night talk show host who wants to be the king of late night, quote unquote. And you guys are going to have to forgive me because character names are, escaping me right now. It was a very long weekend. So just take my word for it. This is the sort of summary of the plot of the movie. So this guy wants to be the king of the late nights, and in a narrative sort of intro to this character, you see that he was, at the top, and he had a wife, and his wife mysteriously died. You guys whoever watches the movie will later find out what really happened to her, if you can read between the lines. And it says that he walked away from the talk show that he had. And in the narration, they hint around that he was involved with, all these senator types, all these Hollywood movie star types. And they went to an all-male camp, and basically they were all Satan worshipers. That's an underlying thing in the movie. So what happens in the movie is to come back to the talk show, and still his ratings are falling, to sort of, make one more move at the late night crown. What he does is he stages a Halloween special and basically has a live chat with a demon from hell on there. And the story sounds hokey and everything, but I gotta tell you, it was very, very entertaining for an hour and a half. And it, like I said, the only complaint that I had is that the special effects were a little cheesy, but the movie, the way it was presented, was pretty cool because it shows you the movie itself is actually a tape, supposed to be a tape of this last late night show. The ending is a little messed up, but you really have to pay attention to the actual story, and it makes perfect sense. It is probably one of Shudder's most successful independent horror films to date. And I really enjoyed it quite a lot. It was slow at times. All the actors, and like I said, I guys, you're going to have to forgive me. I don't have my Fango magazine, so I can't really tell you. All the actors were pretty awesome. And if you have Shudder, I suggest that one night, it's not the greatest horror film in the world, but it's not the worst either. You know what I mean? It was very cool, very creative, and I really dug it. And yeah, it was slow. Getting into the story was pretty cool. But in the movie, each guest that sits down in the studio with this talk show host, you have one guy, and the characters are pretty perfect. You have one guy who thinks he's the best at everything, and every other guest they bring on, he tries to shut down or call bullshit on them for what they bring to the table. Another guest is a sort of person that can talk to the dead and figure out, like, he can communicate. Like, he'll look at you and he'll say, okay, I hear the name Ted. You know what I mean? And then the guy in the audience who he's talking to goes, okay, I had an Uncle Ted. Okay, this is what Ted wants to tell you. And he's a pretty neat character. Then you have a psychiatrist on there who is taking care of this survivor of a satanic cult. And that's where things get pretty interesting, because once this guest comes on, the two of them, the psychiatrist and the girl, it gets pretty interesting. And that's when all the sort of horror of this film comes out. And it's more of a demonic possession. And I kind of dug it too, because it's been a long time since we've seen a good, demonic, movie. So that was one of the movies I seen. Like I said, check out Late Night with the Devil. I wish I knew who was in it, but like I said, guys, I don't have my reference material here. Very good film. Like I said, hour and a half. And everybody, was tip top, and they did a really good job. And I highly recommend it. As far as gore goes, there's a lot of there's some carnage in there. One guy dies off screen after vomiting blood. There's a stabbing that takes place. One guy hallucinates, rips his stomach open, worms fall out of it. I believe his eyeball flies out, and this is hallucinating. Let's see. I think a couple of heads explode. I'm not sure, but pretty mild on the gore front, but just enough to warrant probably an R rating, but nothing too crazy that I can remember. So I watched that bad boy Friday night. So you can check it. Or, I'm sorry, Saturday morning I watched that. Another movie that I want to talk to you about is a 1990s sort of thriller action-adventure movie starring Ice-T, Rutger Hauer, F. Murray Abraham, Gary Busey, and Charles S. Dutton. And I know that's a pretty good list of names, guys. That's an all-star game and a half right there. But the movie's called Surviving the Game. And if you guys have not seen that, I'm telling you right now, this thing is one of my favorite movies. And they just put it out on Blu-ray. For a while, you could only get it on VHS, because apparently the movie wasn't popular enough to bring it to Blu-ray. I believe it was on DVD for a short period of time, but I think it changed hands, distribution wise. So I don't believe that the DVD lasted too long. So this bad boy was directed by Ernest Dickerson, and it came out in 1994. And basically, this is an underrated action adventure sort of movie, and it set the template for movies like The Hunt, which was one. Ready or Not, you could say, draws inspiration from this. But basically, this is a pretty interesting movie. And like I said, the one thing about this is I'm going to keep saying it, it's underrated because not a lot of people checked it out. Because if you guys remember, Ice-T in the 90s was pretty big. I mean, think about it. He did 3 cool movies back to back. He did Ricochet, right? Where he played a character. He was in Ricochet, right? He turned around, was in New Jack City. That's coming off the heels of a song called Cop Killer. And then he does this. Very cool film. But basically what the movie's about is Ice-T. Ice-T plays a cat named Mason. Mason is a homeless guy, and the only thing we really know about him is that there was a fire in his ghetto apartment, and his wife and kid got killed. So he's homeless, living on the street. And Charles S. Dutton, you guys might remember him from a show called Rock. That was whenever I was like real little. 53 had Rock, and it got canceled real quick, and I don't remember why. But it aired on Sunday right before In Living Color. That's how I remember Rock. But anyway, Charles S. Dutton, one of his best acting roles, if not his first acting role. He plays a member of a homeless outreach program where he feeds the homeless, takes care of them, gives them free lunches during the day and stuff like that. But basically suckers Ice-T and says, look, want to help you. Ice-T, he disregards the help, whatever. So right in the intro of this movie, not even a half hour into it, Ice-T decides his life ain't worth living and he wants to kill himself. So he's given a chance by Charles S. Dutton's character. He says, look, you clean yourself up, there's a job for you. We're going to get you all straight. You're going to get back on the road because I like helping people, whatever. Right there, you guys know there's an underlying concept right there. Because ain't nobody that nice. And if there is, there's always a catch. Well, the story takes a really, really interesting turn because Ice-T is given a job to be, a hunting guide of all things. So, doesn't take a genius to figure out what happens. All of a sudden, Ice-T now becomes the prey and has to outwit Gary Busey, Rutger Hauer, Charles F. Dutton, F. Murray Abraham. All these guys could be an action movie in their own, but they were all in here. And you know what? The title of this thing says it all. Never underestimate a man who's got nothing to lose. And I'm telling you guys, this thing from start to finish is one of the coolest movies you'll ever see because it's underrated. There is some really, really cool scenes in here. And it really gives the actors in this film a chance to really go a little crazy, especially Gary Busey. Now, if you guys know Gary Busey in the early 90s, this was after the motorcycle accident. That dude was insane from jump. And if you guys want to see something really wild, Google on YouTube Gary Busey versus Meatloaf over a yellow crayon or red crayon. I can't remember which one it is. But it was on Celebrity Apprentice, and oh my good God, that's some trash TV right there, but it's great. But anyway, Gary Busey and all these guys play perfect psychopaths. Now, I want to give a shout out to Rutger Hauer in this film. Rutger Hauer was pretty much underrated. He had done the classic movie The Hitcher with C. Thomas Howell. back in '84. He was also in a sci-fi movie called Split Second, and that he played a cop tracking an alien killer. That was pretty cool. I don't think that in any role he played, even The Hitcher, he was as low-key, cunning, and evil as he is in here. His whole demeanor, you don't really know much about him, and that's what makes him dangerous. And he's like the ringleader of this whole thing. And I gotta tell you, the boy pretty sadistic, you know? And it's wild because him, Gary Busey, share a scene. Also in this film, there is another guy, John C. McGinley. He's in here. He's a pretty cool psycho in this film too. You know, he's good excuse me, good bad guy in this too. In fact, his actions are so sort of outlandishly crazy. Charles S. Dutton's character at one point says, "Yeah, I'm going to have to put a bullet in his ass. I see that now." And you know what? That just shows the level of psychoticness among this group. Now, this movie used to be on Amazon Prime. You could buy it. In fact, I think I did buy it, but I always like the Blu-rays. But it's one of my favorite films of all time, simply because at the time I seen it, Ice-T was cool, and I liked the idea of, you know, everything going against you and you flip the tables over, you know, and you flip it on them. And I always liked that concept. I also like this movie because, like I said, it set the template for movies like The Hunt, you know, Ready or Not. And it had that same concept. You know, a bunch of people hunting you or you hunting a bunch of people, you know. You can never tell who's predator and who's prey. But I suggest you guys all check that out because it's a very, very fun movie. It's very wild. And I know some of you only know Ice-T from the Car Shield commercials, but check this movie out. Very cool flick. And, you know. But basically, I wanted to come on here and drop a video. And because, like I said, I wanted to drop it, you know, Saturday or Sunday. And I just got all busy with everything. And just wanted to say, you know, talk about these few things. But I appreciate everybody who has watched me. You know, I even get compliments, you know, where I work. You know, people are like, "Hey, man, that's cool." You know, from my man Connor to my man Justin, you know, I got a lot of people who really appreciate what I do. I am going to try to watch that movie Night Swim. And I think what I'm going to do from now on maybe is I'm going to do a new movie and then I'm going to do a retro movie, you know. Because my next retro movie, guys, is going to be a movie called Southern Comfort, and it's directed by Walter Hill. And Walter Hill, you know, did 48 Hours and this and that. But this is sort of like a Deliverance meets Friday the 13th deal. And it was another underrated film. So I'm going to get on to that. Let's see. I don't know what new movie I'll review. I'm trying to check out Night Swim. I just haven't had the chance. Still have not had time to watch Oppenheimer. You know, so I'm going to have to make some time. And also on Shudder, if you guys do get it, there is Joe Bob Briggs, The Last Drive-In show. He did The Toxic Avenger. And I'm telling you, there is no other splatter film, monster madness, monster hero movie that burned a hole in my brain other than that movie. And with Joe Bob commentary, I started watching it. And it's very good. And it's unedited. And the funny thing is, when you watch The Toxic Avenger, if you Wikipedia this thing or anything up, if you read anything about it, one thing you'll read is this movie was never going to be shown in U.S. theaters because of all the violence. It's funny because you can watch it right here on Shudder. And I think that's how far we've come, you know, for tolerance, you know. So, definitely check out Surviving the Game. Definitely watch Late Night with the Devil if you have Shudder, because it is probably one of the best movies, like I said, Shudder had put out. And again, I want to thank all my fans and, you know, the Hollywood will mourn the loss of Roger Corman. You know, and like I said, I believe he did Piranha. Check out Piranha, and even Piranha 2, The Spawning, wasn't even that bad. It was ridiculous. I think that movie, the other movie that I was talking about, was Up from the Depths. I think that was the movie. Yeah, Roger Corman did a movie about a sea monster that terrorized the beachfront community. But he done all kinds of crazy B-movie stuff. But those are the two that I can remember. And like I said, Wikipedia, he was in a lot of stuff, guys. And he worked along. He actually got Jack Nicholson's career and a bunch of other stars started, which is a cool thing for him to do. So what they say is true. I guess if you work on a horror film, that's your big break. I mean, look at George Clooney. And George Clooney was in Return to Horror High. And the next thing I know, he's on ER, and he's on Dusk Till Dawn. So, those movies make stars, is what I'm saying. And also, one more thing. My man Mitch. You guys know I mentioned Mitch. Sometimes I cut promos on him and this and that. But, you know, Mitch, if you see this or you happen to come across this, and you know who you are, you know, I just want to say thank you for helping me, you know, get my head together whenever I lost it. And I wanted to thank you for being awesome, because you're too cool for school, man. That's all I can say. And, you know, promos aside, you're a good guy, Mitch, and I'm glad I know you. Thank you for seeing things from a little bit different angle than I do. So I just want to pass that along. Mitch knows what I'm talking about. I don't want to go into it, but you know, speaking of the Toxic Avenger, it does appear that we are going to get the new Toxic Avenger with Peter Dinklage and Kevin Bacon later this year. I kept looking for it because I heard filming was done, so I keep looking for the Blu-ray. I keep looking for on Amazon Prime, and nothing. But I guess Legendary is going to put it out later this year, and we're going to check it out. And hopefully come at you this weekend with some more movie reviews. Because, you know, and I'm sorry, life happens, and sometimes you just can't sit down in front of the camera as much as you want, you know? And I can't tell people about what it is, but, you know, like I could rattle off, you know, movies about, you know, telling people what to check out at work, but I never have time to sit down and really, you know, get into a movie or tell you why I like it, because life has been crazy and I just want life to hit a pause button. That's what I want. Just pause, let me do my thing, let's jump back into it, you know. So but yeah, definitely cool recommendations. I really like those movies, and I hope you check them out, and I hope you like them too. Again, thank you to everybody that watches my stuff, and that's why I keep doing what I'm doing.